Hello, and welcome to the fifth day, the fifth session, the fifth episode of Possibility to Profit. I'm Blaine Bartlett, and I'm going to be with you through the rest of this journey. We'll take roughly about an hour, just the same as we have the last couple of days. I'm pretty excited about this session in particular. It's kind of the culmination of the last 4 days in a number of different ways. And in addition, I think that when we're talking about the key, the single key that makes the difference here, you're going to be interestingly surprised, I think, because I don't think you know what it is, and I don't think you really will appreciate it until we start unbundling it a little bit. So with that little bit of a teaser, I'm just going to begin our move into this conversation. And let me move myself out of the way and put our slide up here for today. There we go. Oops, put me back up here. Where did I go? Got to learn how to work these controls at some point in time here. So, day 5, learning about the key that is, I really do believe it, is absolutely critical to moving your possibility into profit. And I'm using possibility into profit as a metaphor, basically. And I go back to the very beginning of the first session that we talked about profit and defining it. If I'm spending time, if I'm spending resources, if I'm spending energy, if I'm spending anything, there's no real legitimate expectation for having a return come back to me, a return on that spend. If I'm investing, that's a different story. I invest because I expect a return on that investment. And that's what profit's about. It's the difference between the cost, if you will, or the amount of energy, the amount of resource that was committed to something that was put out there, and what I get back in return for it. And that had better, over the long haul, be a surplus. Yeah, that's really what we're looking at here. I think the only thing that we don't get a surplus in is our investment of time. We don't seem to get much time back at the end of the day. It really is about the only non-renewable resource I've ever run into. So all of that being said, what is the key here? And I think that it's going to be a useful way to just kind of open this thing up and talk about a number of different things that we've been touching on over the course of the last couple of days. So let me completely back out of the picture here, and I'm going to bring the slide up so that we can actually take a full appreciation of this. The key. Now, we are faced with all kinds of things in life. There is no question about that. And if we're looking for success, if we're looking to be successful, and I define success in an interesting way, it's developing the capacity to continuously start over. I really do believe that that's what sustainable success is in life. It's developing the capacity to continuously start over. And in that process, when we're looking at developing that capacity, one of the default places that people seem to go is looking at the choices that I'm confronted with. And that, for many people, is where they actually get, I think, wrapped around the axle a little bit, or they get derailed, is actually probably a more apt way of putting it. Choices. And, what do I mean by choices? Well, my wife and I are discussing, what do we want for dinner? Well, what are the choices? Well, we could go out to eat. We could stay home. We could barbecue. We could make a pizza. We could, there's a lot of choices that we could actually entertain. And short term, it probably doesn't make a big difference which one we do entertain, as long as I walk away with a full stomach and that sort of thing. Yeah, I may feel that was a good choice. Aggregated over time, if all I'm doing is focusing on choices and all I'm aware of is the nature of the choices that I'm making, I'm going to have some difficulties. Choices in and of themselves don't lend themselves to a successful life. I've got a surfeit of choices in my life. When I look around, there are all kinds of different directions I can go. All kinds of different choices I can make. Some will be good for me, some won't be good for me. What's the determinant about what makes a good choice from a bad choice? And that's really where the key comes into play here. when we're looking at the key of developing and sustaining success in life, what we're really paying attention to are the decisions that we make about the choices that are in front of us. And it's decisions that are the master key to a highly successful life in life. That's, something to just kind of sit with for just a moment, truly. Success, we would like to think, whoops, where am I going here? I'm going backwards. Why am I going backwards? I don't want to go backwards. Success, we would like to think, looks like this. If I get on the right trajectory, hopefully I'm just going to be into the land of milk and honey at some point in time here. And this gets to be a bit of a problem because nobody actually is able to stay on that line. And the assumption is, look, I get the right job, with the right pay, at the right company, and I'll go back in time even. I got to graduate from high school to be successful. Then I got to get into the right college to be successful. Then I've got to find the right partner to be successful. All of these metrics, all of these milestones that are present on this success line is what people typically organize themselves around. And it's other people's definition of what success and what a successful life looks like. In fact, when we're looking at life, this is what success really, really, truly looks like. And this is why I say, sustainable success is about developing the capacity to continuously start over. It truly is about developing the capacity to continuously start over. I'm going to be off course probably more times than I'm on course. I truly am. And that's where, I'm faced with all kinds of choices. But what decisions do I make that will get me back on course? And this, again, is why I want to pay attention to what the mindset is structured around. I'm going to contrast, I've got mindset on one hand, and then I've got that possibility that I want to achieve, that possibility that I want to manifest. Oftentimes, that mindset is not going to be conducive to me getting that possibility in the way that I would like to experience it. Now, I can make choices. I can do, all kinds, go down that rabbit hole, go down that rabbit hole. But it's the decision structure that I want to pay attention to. This is where I want to actually direct our attention in this session today. This notion of decision. And I've developed a little model that I think can help along the way. And it's a pretty simple 4-step model that I want to introduce here because I think it's a way to actually begin to apprehend what we can do. So if success is about developing the capacity to continuously start over, what we're really talking about here is a design question. How do I design my life to have the kind of fulfillment, the kind of richness, the kind of happiness, the kind of things, the kind of experiences that I want to have? How do I move that possibility into profit? How do I move it into reality so that I feel as if I'm profiting in my life? And that's what this model is designed to actually address. So when you look at this model, and I'm going to put it within a context of a year. So here's the challenge that this conversation is going to end up dropping in your lap, so to speak. You've got a world that you can actually produce here. As it is within, so it is without. What is it that I want to have my world actually be experienced like for me? Designing a year that designs me. What are the elements that go into designing? And designing is really an interesting way to think about this. Mindset. We've been working with mindset for the last 4 days. And I'm going to parse this down into the 2 basic buckets. The mindset of an amateur versus the mindset of a professional. An amateur will design differently than a professional will. I will guarantee it. A goal. How do you work with goals? And these are goals that grow you. Goals that grow you. This is going to be, I think, kind of a fascinating exploration because this is where decisions, what kinds of decisions you actually make, come into real clarity. And that literally goes into this, this next area here. From a design perspective, Your success, the trajectory of your success is predicated on the decisions that you make moment by moment, day by day, week by week, year by year. So in this year that we're going to be looking at here, what's the decisions that you're going to want to be challenging yourself with, and what informs more precisely those decisions? And then finally, agreements. It's both the key to resilience, and if you remember that squiggly line that mapped out success, you have to be able to withstand energetically the bumps and dips and the twists and the turns and the times that you fall off what you think to be the success line. So these are the four elements that we're looking at, and I'm going to take a little bit of time here just to address each one of these four. And when we're doing it, I want to just kind of have you pay some attention to how this actually plays out in your own mind. So just think about this and bring to mind where you'd like to go and where you are. And the mindset is where you are right now. A mindset that designs you. If you're an amateur, and I'm not suggesting that you are by any way, shape, or form, but amateurs will tend to do just enough to get by. Amateurs will do just enough to get by. The primary organizing principle of a mindset of an amateur, or an amateur's mindset more precisely, is I don't want to be embarrassed. I don't want to look foolish. I'm going to play it safe. I want to play not to lose. Minimize risk. I'm not going to put myself too far out there. I'm going to hedge my bets. And if we go back to the mindset structure that I worked with in yesterday's session, this amateur's mindset in very specific domains addresses or is informed by it's not enough or it's just enough. So I'm going to do just enough to get by. I'm going to do enough to get by. Now, I play golf, or at least I swing a club. I'm a hopeless golfer. I actually enjoy the sport, when I do play it. But I am not in any way, shape, or form going to do what it takes to be even close to a professional. I'm not going to do what it takes necessarily to break 100 in my score. At one point in time, I actually was shooting in the high 80s, low 90s. But I wasn't consistent. I'm nowhere near that today. I don't play enough to be consistent. Developing the capacity to continuously start over, I don't start over. I just take real long hiatuses, and then I come together if I happen to have an opportunity to play. My mindset is do just enough to get by, so I can get on a course, and I won't embarrass myself too much. Okay, and that's kind of how this works. So each of us in domains of our life will be legitimately positioning ourselves as amateurs. I'm going to do just enough to get by. Now, where this gets problematic is when this shows up in a work environment. Now, just think about that. I'm going to do just enough to get by. And if you're a leader in that space, you're going to have people that are doing just enough to get by. You're basically trying to run your business with amateurs. And if you happen to be in a position of leadership, and you're approaching it from the mindset of being an amateur, doing just enough to get by, the results that you will be producing will be amateurish. And that's not a judgment, that's just a statement of fact. The mindset of doing just enough to get by is the mindset of an amateur. And you contrast that with the mindset of a professional. Doing what it takes to excel. It's not about perfection. It's doing what it takes to excel. Now, I mentioned in one of the earlier sessions that I enjoy fly fishing. And I teach. I love to teach leadership development. So I'm going to, if I could take either one of those two domains, I am more of an amateur in the fishing arena, but I am certainly more of a professional in the teaching of leadership development arena. I will go to classes, I will take lessons, I will go to symposiums, I read voraciously. I'm always looking for ways to connect the dot. my focus as a professional doing what I do in my vocational domain is very much for me set up to be a exercise in excellence, exercise in excelling. Yeah, I'm very focused on quality. I'm very focused on relationship. I mean, all of these attributes. And I learn how to do this stuff. I really pay attention to how to do this. The same is true, to a degree in my fishing. I also will move into cooking. I mean, yeah, I'm not going to be James Beard. That's a professional. I'm not going to do what it takes to be James Beard. I'm not going to open a French laundry. But, and that's a but, I am going to be closer to a professional in my mindset than I am as an amateur. So there's gradations. So this isn't black and white. But what I do know is that when I move into the mindset of a professional, I'm operating from a perspective that there's more than enough. There is more than enough. And it becomes a question of what kind of decisions do I make? What kind of decisions do I make that inform what I want to direct my energy towards? This is a design question. I use my energy to design my world. It's an ontological process. I want to design a life that designs me in return. And this mindset makes that possible. An amateur designs a life that designs them in return. A professional designs a life that designs a different kind of life in return. So I want you to just kind of notice what you notice around this, and just kind of do an assessment, just in your mind, if you will, about how you're approaching different domains as you go about living your life. As a parent, are you approaching it as an amateur or as a professional? And again, we're not looking for perfection here. We're looking for doing what it takes to excel. To excel. Yeah. And excelling has some very distinct attributes to it. There's movement. There's aspiration. There's growth. There's all of these things that are kind of bundled into this notion of excelling. It's not being graded. It's an internal metric. Do you feel like you're excelling? Even when you stumble, did you fall forward? Did you learn something in the process? That's what excelling is about. It's not just doing enough to get by. That's what we're looking at here. So, goals. I want to move into this one. This one gets kind of interesting. I mentioned this in one of the earlier sessions. I believe it was in the second session. The purpose of a goal is not to get. The purpose of a goal, ideally, is to grow. But that's not how most people approach it. If you have an amateur's mindset, you're going to approach goal setting in a very different way than a professional will approach setting goals. And when you're looking to move possibility into reality so that you can actually have possibility moving into profit, growth is absolutely crucial to this. So, I was first presented with this idea. I'm going to give credit where credit is due here. Bob Proctor. I've known Bob for a long time. We've trained together on the stage together. We've developed a couple of programs together. He's one of my dear friends. I would actually consider him to be a mentor of mine in many ways. We've been in this business. One time, we were doing a fourth dimensional leadership program that we both designed together. And we estimated that together we had close to about 90 to 100 years of experience in this business. So, we kind of looked at each other and said, I guess we know what we're talking about, maybe. But he suggested that people pay attention to goal setting in a very different way than what they're used to. And this is where my idea of a goal came into play. He didn't call it this. This is my addition to his little model. But the idea here, and he made some distinctions. There's an A-type goal. And an A-type goal, very simply, is something that you know how to do. It's something that you know how to do. And people will set goals for themselves, and they will call them goals, and they're really not goals. What they are their activities that are designed to suck time and energy. They get something out of it. They will set an A-type goal because the intent here is to just get something that I already know how to get. and I've probably already gotten it before. And a good example of this would be, I'd like to get a new car. Well, that's great. Do you have a car already? Yep, I've got a car already. So you know how to get that car. You know how to arrange a loan for the car, or you've got enough money saved up to buy it outright, or whatever. Yeah, the answer is usually yes. There's no growth in that. There's no growth at all in that. And the fact that it's a new car, the fact that it's a different model, you get a different experience, certainly. But there's no growth in that in terms of skill development, in terms of perhaps an increase in wisdom about how money is allocated. I mean, there's a lot of things that you can actually play with this. A-type goals, there's nothing wrong with them. There's nothing wrong with them at all. But just know that an A-type goal doesn't entail any need to grow. A lot of organizations will spend a lot of time and energy just doing what they already know how to do. And stagnation is a very clear indication that that is what's going on. And when you start looking at some of those numbers that I showed you one of the earlier episodes about employee engagement, people are not engaged necessarily about things that don't challenge them. If I'm coming to work and I'm doing the same thing over and over and over again, producing the same kind of result over and over and over again, there's no juice in that. I'm not growing. And so I'm just putting my time in. I'm doing just enough to get by. A B-type goal. A little bit different. This is something that I haven't necessarily done, but I think I can do it. And the reason I think I can do it is because I know somebody that has done it, or I've got access to resources that has accomplished it before. The idea of best practices. I mean, those sorts of things come into mind. I've got a model that I can follow. I may have a mentor that can give me some guidance along the way. So there is growth entailed in this. I will actually be moving myself into some areas that are a little unfamiliar to me, but I know how. I'm familiar enough to actually say with a high degree of certainty, I think I can do this. I think I can do this. I really do. And again, no problem with this. This is also where many organizations will move when they start setting revenue targets. And it sounds like, let's increase our revenue by 10% this year. Do you know how to do that? Well, we did it 8% last year, but I think if we kind of just tweak a couple of things, we can probably get to 10%. Okay? There's a little bit of growth involved in that, but it's not earth-shattering. It's not breakthrough stuff. It's, again, kind of just doing enough to get by. Yeah? I'm doing enough to satisfy the stockholders, the shareholders, whoever it may be. I'm doing enough to make the banker happy. It's a B-type goal. I think I can do it. Where we want to be able to go, and when you're talking about moving possibility into reality so that it can be a possible source of profit for you, moving possibility into profit, what we want to look at is something completely different. And this is a goal that grows you. And that's why I call this a growal. You want to have a growal. A growal because it ends up designing me. And it also, in the process, ends up stretching me. It really moves me out of my comfort zone. I am very uncomfortable with this C-type growal. It's what I really want to do, though. It's what I really want to have. It's what I really want to have experience with. I don't have a bloody clue about how I'm going to do this, but I know that I'm going to. I am a commitment to this growal. This changes the game. This is where it gets interesting. This is where it gets juicy. This is where it gets exciting. And this is where you start paying attention to the decisions that you're making. When you're down in A-type goals and B-type goals, you can get by a lot just making choices. Yeah, because there's not really a whole lot at risk because you know how to recover. You've already been here. When you're moving towards a growal, when you're stretching into that unknown space, don't have a clue. I don't have a clue. I talked about when I moved into the healthcare space, about 15 years ago. This was a growel for me. I didn't have a bloody idea, no clue, no resources, I didn't have a dot to connect anything to. But I knew that that was something that I wanted. And I also knew in my bones that it was something that was going to happen. I absolutely knew that that was going to be where I was going to be working. I became that commitment. It was integrated. It was a part of me. Growls that design me. Now, I want to just pop something in here real quick. The rational mind, the logical mind, the mindset mind will go, well, how much time does it take? I didn't have a clue. I could have put some time frames on it by, in 3 years I want to be in front of a university talking to a group of docs. I could have done that. But the number is arbitrary. My time frame is arbitrary. What it takes for me to get vibrationally in alignment with that growl so that it begins to manifest. It's already happened. I just haven't arrived yet. I want to pay attention when I start setting this. It will cause me to be highly uncomfortable. It will cause me to be curious. The mindset of a professional. I will do what it takes to excel. So when I found myself presented with an opportunity that I was unfamiliar with, rather than going, I don't know how to do this, I would just say yes. I would just say yes, and I would figure out how to do it. And that's how the process began. This is what we're looking to do. This is how leaders actually lead. Then this is how you develop the capacity to continuously start over. You don't develop the capacity to continuously start over when you're working in A-type goals and B-type goals, because there's very little likelihood of failure. A C-type goal will require you to fail more often than you're succeeding. But you're going to be failing forward, developing the capacity to continuously start over. That's what we're looking at here. So resilience becomes a major part of what we're trying to make happen, which actually takes us into this next area. Decisions that design us. I love the term ontology, ontological design, designing something that designs me in return. Yeah, I'm sitting in this office in my home right now, and it's gorgeous. It truly is. And I take my hat off to my wife, Cynthia Kersey. She just did an unbelievable job from an interior design perspective. And then when it came my turn to start focusing on my office, what we both did was because we remodeled the house. We spent a couple of years, we basically tore it down and started all over. That wasn't the original intent, but that's essentially what happened. And we started asking ourselves the question, well, what would we love this to be? Not what could we afford? This house remodel became a growl for us. What would we love was the metric. What would we love? And how would it design us in return? What's the experience that we want to have in our home? What's the experience we want our home to give us? And that served in every room of the house as we designed it. It served in the landscaping. My office, I wanted a place where I could look out at the ocean and be inspired. I wanted to have nature come in. So I've got it, the entire one wall is just nothing but windows and doors opening onto the deck, onto the seashore, or not the seashore, we live up on a bluff, but it's opening up onto this body of water that is just gorgeous. And we've got deer that walk by. We've got an albino deer out here this year. We've got eagles that are flying. It's inspirational, and it serves me. It's designing me in return, so that there's a creativity and a reciprocity that comes in. Now, where I was going with this is designing by decision. So when we were making decisions, we had all kinds of choices in front of us about decor, about color, about anybody that's ever built a home or redesigned a home, the number of choices. They are crazy making. The decisions in the way that we decided everything had to do with that ontological question. Two things. Number one, would we love it? And number two, how will it design us in return? Cost wasn't what we were paying attention to. It really wasn't. And it worked out. It worked out. We spent more money than we wanted to, but that's, or that we thought we were going to. But it was a great investment. We weren't spending money. We were investing it in a design project, designing us in return. So the question here, when you're looking at decisions that design you, you want to be very clear about for the sake of what? For the sake of what am I making this choice? I'm going to have all kinds of choices, but the decision criteria is embedded in for the sake of what? That's what we want to pay attention to. And from a leadership perspective, leaders are facing all kinds of choices all day long. They're presented with a ton of choices to do things in their organizations. For the sake of what am I going to design this or decide to do this? For the sake of what does this make sense? So there has to be an understanding of the consequence down the road. This is where the design area starts to come into play. This is what we're looking at. You're also designing in a way that you have people involved with you. Agreements that design you. When you start looking at that future state and you start saying, I am a commitment. I am a commitment to this possibility that I want to bring into manifestation. Rather than I can't do it because you're going to have all kinds of choices that can derail you. This is why I want to get decisions in front of the whole process. What we're looking to do here is make agreements, and we make two kinds of agreements. We make agreements with other people, and I'm looking at this slide and it looks a little thin for you, so I'm going to actually bring it up full screen, and I'll take me down. You make decisions with or agreements with others, and when you're making agreements with others, a couple of things begin to occur. It builds trust, it builds relationship, and it builds reliability. Now these, there's other things that come into play here, but when you're making and keeping agreements with other people, these are some of the returns on that investment. An agreement is an investment in the relationship. It's an investment in the outcome that you say that you want to have. So you're making agreements with others that are organized around you designing the kind of life that you want to have. And you're also making agreements with yourselves. It builds self-trust when I keep that agreement. It builds confidence when I keep that agreement, and it builds self-esteem. And again, these are just some basic ones that come into play here. Agreements that I make with myself are the ones that nobody else knows about. I'm going to get up at 5 o'clock in the morning and go running, or I'm going to meditate 10 minutes a day, or whatever it may be. But that agreement with myself, nobody knows I've made it. And when the alarm goes off or when the sun comes in the window and it wakes me up, do I get out of bed? Do I go do what I've agreed with myself that I'm going to do? When you're looking at this idea of, we're in a frequency field. How do you shift your energy? How do you begin to vibrate, quote unquote? How do you access the frequency of that possibility? One of the major ways that is occurring is in the way that you interact with others in your environment. And agreements are a catalyst for this. Decisions are a catalyst of this. For the sake of what? Are you actually making this choice? What kind of goals have you set for yourself? And are you approaching it as a professional would or as an amateur would? These things begin to be very important. And this is what we use to build mindset. And I'm putting it on this slide for this reason. Agreements are the currency that the mindset transacts business with. You said you were going to do this, you didn't do it. Well, that means you're now this kind of a person. And over time, it begins to aggregate. Or you said you were going to do this and you did do that. And now, okay, over time, I start to build a mindset that says, I can trust myself. I start to build a mindset that said, yeah, when I set my mind to something, I can do it. And I start to feel good about myself. I mean, all of these things come into play, and it's a mindset function. Oops, I don't want to go there just yet. I will back that out and do this click here. So approaching, you see a runner here. So, excuse me. The idea, you got 4 things to design with. You got a mindset, amateur, professional. You've got goals. What kind of goals do you set for yourself? They better be, C-type goals, not A or B. You've got decisions that you're making, not choices. You've got decisions that you're making. And then to actually execute on those decisions, you're making agreements with others and with yourself. Now, if you're doing this and you're doing this with intent, again, energy will follow attention. And if you're disciplined in the approach that you're taking, you start to see some very interesting results appearing, things that you never thought could happen. And I grew up in Eugene, Oregon. And Eugene, Oregon is the track capital of the United States for all intents and purposes. When I was going to university, Steve Prefontaine was running. Just an amazing runner. My high school track coach was a fellow by the name of Bill Dillinger. And Bill Dillinger ended up becoming the track coach at the University of Oregon. And, he was my track coach. I ran cross country, and he was my coach in that. Bill Bowerman, the founder of Nike, was the coach at the University of Oregon before Bill took over. Bill Dillinger took over. And I met both of these guys. Prefontaine, just as an anecdote, was my bartender at a pub I used to go to. And I mention these 3 gentlemen for a very specific reason: running. I remember when Bannister broke, I don't remember it specifically, but when Roger Bannister broke the 4-minute mile, people thought it was just, how could anybody possibly do that? 4-minute mile, my God. This guy is just, and what was interesting was within about a month, 4 or 5 other people had broken this unbreakable record. And I remember talking to Pri at one point in time about running, and he said, I'll never forget this. It didn't register at the time, but he said it's all mental. It's all mindset. People have the physical capacity, and with the right training and whatnot, they can actually excel, but it's the mindset that makes the difference. So this video that I've got here, I've got actually 2 videos that I want to show you just very quickly. Both of them are, I think, kind of interesting. This particular one is a running, and it's a runner, Kip Kichingo. He was a marathoner out of Kenya. And he was the first person to break the 2-hour barrier for a marathon. Now, 26 miles. He ran that 26 miles in under 2 hours. People thought that could never be done. And here is him actually doing that. And there's not just him doing this, but there's also something that I want to show you that follows this. So, just enjoy this.
There was no holding up. I doubted myself. I always believed in myself. I'm the happiest man to run under 2 hours in order to inspire many people, to tell people that no human is limited, you can do it. Together, you can make a peace wall, a running wall. And after making a running wall to this wall, you can make this wall a beautiful wall and a peaceful wall. Actually, my wife and my 2 children are giving me more support. I'm happy for them to come and witness the history. The 41 pacemakers are among the best athletes ever in the whole world. I am to appreciate them for accepting to do the job. We made this two together in this one. my mind, I know that my tree must be realized, especially 500 meters. That's where I really put my confidence and placed it. I'm happy for him, for what he has achieved. He's actually inspired all of us that we can stretch our limits in our lives and we can do more than we think we can do.
We can do more than we think we can do. Now, there's a couple of takeaways from this. Not just the fact that he ran under two hours. I mean, 1 hour, 59 minutes, and 40 seconds. I mean, it's just crazy. A pace of 4 minutes and 30 seconds. For 26 plus miles. A pace of that. Now, here's the thing that I think was fascinating about this little video. A couple of things. As he was talking, I realized in the last 500 meters, I realized in my mind that I had already done it. It's already happened, I just haven't arrived. I realized in my mind that it was already there. Now, he had imagined this with far greater clarity, and he saw himself doing this. But he also understood something that was very real here, very true, and it's something I've touched on a couple of different times. Nothing of consequence has ever been manifested by one person alone doing it. I don't know if you caught this in the trailers or in the annotation here, but he had 41 pacemakers working with him. 41 people actually working with him, running with him to keep the pace going, to support him, to actually be there as a moral support as well as physical support. You're not going to get where you want to go by yourself. You know, Marshall Goldsmith, what got you here won't get you there. And this is why I talk about developing the capacity to continuously start over. You start making decisions about who do I surround myself with? Who do I move with? In this next phase of my life, who is going to be ecumenical to the kind of success that I say that I'd like to have? These are decisions that get made, as opposed to default choices that I'm just going to, just stay with what I've always known. I'm going to just hang out with what I've always had. I start making decisions that are aligned with and in vibrational frequency with that objective that I say I want to have happen. That's what we're looking at with this. And this was a growal. You make no mistake about this. This was a growal. Nobody knew how to do this. Nobody had ever done this in the history of the world. To run 26 miles under 2 hours. The first marathoner that tried this in ancient Greece died. And it didn't take 2 hours. I think it took him a couple of days to actually do it. This is a big deal when you start putting it in this kind of a perspective. Now, there's another video here that I want to show you that I think is just absolutely fascinating. And it has to do with how progress actually manifests itself. And it's Formula One racing. And racers in Formula One cars, although they are the ones that you see on the track, what goes on behind the scenes to keep them on the track is a big deal. These drivers are not going to be successful without having a whole team working with them. So let me pull myself out of this and we'll bring this one up. This is an interesting comparison.
But Holland comes in for a pit stop. Time to refuel and change tires. Lou Moore himself changes the tires. Only 4 crew members, including the driver, are allowed to work on the car. It's a tense time. Holland stays in his seat, anxious to get away. Let's watch. The tires are changed at last. A crewman polishes the windshield as Holland moves away just 67 seconds after he stopped.
I love that clip. I absolutely love that clip. 67 seconds, a little over a minute in the 1950 Indianapolis. That last pit stop took 1.8 seconds. The world record is a little bit under that now. That was back in 2013, I think, in Melbourne. But you start setting goals, and you will absolutely be shocked at what's possible. We are unbelievably creative. We are unbelievably powerful. Now, I want you to notice, we went from 4 crew members in the pit crew to, and I'm not sure how many they had in the formula, the last one they had, but it was definitely more than 4. I could count them up. So we started making choices. But more importantly, we started making decisions faced with the choices. We always had these choices in front of us. To have more or less crew members, we always had some of these choices. Everything has always been invented, or anything that has ever been invented is invented twice. First as an idea, and then second in physical form. So the idea of a pit crew moving from 67 seconds to 1.8 seconds. I mean, who begins to imagine that kind of an improvement? That's just crazy. Running a marathon in under 2 hours. Why would I even begin to think that would be something that would be possible? Why? Because when we're looking at how energy moves, when we're looking at how results are produced, what we know for a fact is everything exists now. It all exists now. And here I go one more time. I'm repeating myself, and it's a wonderful thing. We live in a frequency field, and in this frequency field, everything exists. Everything is there. And we run a time arrow through it, and this is our illusion, is that there is a past, there is a future, and this now that just kind of slides along here. This now is the important piece that I want to pay attention to. Einstein, like I mentioned in one of the earlier episodes, Einstein said that time is a persistently stubborn illusion, or a stubbornly persistent illusion, more accurately. All there is really is now. And in this area of now, this band of now that I occupy now, everything that I've ever known, everything that I do know how to do exists. This is where my A and B goals exist. This is where the stuff that I have in my life exists. This is how I've designed my life. Everything in this now phase is what I've designed. If I want to design a different experience, I start imagining that there are different possibilities in front of me or available to me. And those different possibilities are the things that I want to pay attention to. And ideally will be growls. This different possibility, it's a growl. I have not a clue how to get there. But I know that if I put myself in a position, if I start looking at mindset, if I start paying attention to growls in the value of them, if I start making decisions rather than choices, and if I set myself up for relationships where I'm making agreements that are consistent with both them supporting me and me supporting me, I start moving frequency internally. I start to shift my mindset. I start to actually shift my sense of who I am. What limits me is not who I am. What limits me is who I think I'm not. So I start expanding who I think I am. And that identity moves up frequency-wise. It starts to shift. It's a phase shift. And when that phase shift occurs, Whatever's on that new band becomes possible. Whatever is on that band becomes resources that can be utilized to manifest that thing that I say I want to have, do, or be. I can't connect the dots looking from where I was to where I want to go because I've never been there before. But when I get there, I can look back and go, I see how I got here now. Steve Jobs famously said, you can't connect the dots going forward when you're doing some of the stuff that we're doing. You can only connect the dots looking backward. So you want to move out of the amateur's mindset, just doing enough to get by. You want to find a way to get yourself positioned so that what you're doing is excelling. You want to be in a position to excel. And excelling, when you're putting yourself in that field and you're looking to excel, then what you're doing is you're putting yourself in the position of being a highly effective leader of your life and of other people. Leadership is the activity of co-creating. Life moves through me and as me. And when life is moving through me and as me, I'm making decisions. And when I'm making the decisions that are concomitant with where I say I want to be and with what it is that I want to have, I start developing the capacity to continuously start over. Yeah, it's an ongoing process. Life is an ongoing process. And as long as I'm moving, things are going to be actually probably working out for me. I may not be, it may not be doing it in the time frame in which I say I would like to have it, but that's just my ego speaking. That's all that is. Yeah, that's just an artifact of my existing mindset that says, now, I want it now. Okay, and there's nothing wrong with that. I mean, that sense of urgency oftentimes is pretty useful. This is what we're looking at. This is where we're going. What we've been playing with over the course of the last 5 sessions is this notion of a mindset, moving possibility into profit. And I want to actually now move into a conversation with you about what specifically you can do and what specifically I can bring to the table for you. Wherever you're at, whatever you want to do, you're not going to be as effective trying to do it by yourself. Shifting mindset is bloody difficult work. It really is. Yeah, I've spent 35, almost 40 years now working with leaders in the process of shifting their mindset to be more effective. None of them have done it by themselves. None of them have. And I've worked with literally over 300,000 people. I've touched about 1 million people in that work that I've done. And none of them have done it by themselves. So my invitation to you is to be just open-minded enough here and look at this from the perspective of an ontological design opportunity. How do I design the life that I want to have? And what are the tools that I need to do it? I am going to offer up a suggestion. Leadership Mindset Mastermind. If you want to be able to elegantly, and with minimal unintended consequences that is, move your possibility into reality so that you can actually profit from it, here's an option and here's an opportunity. When I was talking a little bit ago, I was talking about a model that I had developed that essentially said, here's how we can design our lives. Designing a year that designed you. This mastermind program is a year-long program. And I can't promise you what you're going to take out of it, but what I can promise you is what it's built to do. And if you're interested in developing a different mindset, a mindset that can move you from where you are to where you'd like to be, to have the possibilities that you desire actually manifest in your life, this is a program that will actually work incredibly well for you. I piloted the program last year with a group of about 20 people, and it was an extraordinary success. And a number of the people that you've heard from over the course of this webinar were a part of that program last year. I'm going to be offering it again this year, and it's designed, once again, very specifically to affect mindset. And these 4 areas that I've got highlighted here: mindset, goals, decisions, and agreements. All 4 of these are captured in the context of and in the process of working within this Leadership Mindset Mastermind program. Now, I want to tell you a little bit about it. And it's actually quite simple just in terms of the structure. And this is the structure of it. So the busy mind wants to understand, what do I do? Well, very simply, here's what you end up paying attention to. And I'm just going to go ahead and bring this up so that you've got a better view of it. I'll take myself out of this picture for right now. And what you have are 52 weekly mastermind sessions facilitated by me. Once a week, you'll be meeting with me live in a virtual space. And then by virtual space, I mean Zoom. We'll be online. So wherever you are in the world, you can actually drop in. We meet every Monday morning at 10:30 a.m. Pacific time here in the Seattle, Los Angeles area. So that meeting is more than just a meeting. It's an opportunity for me to teach. And what I do is I take one of the 52 weekly lessons out of the Leadership Mindset Weekly book. And we do a deep dive into that particular lesson. And that becomes the focal point for the week that you pay attention to. Now remember, mindset is shifted and mindset is developed, quite frankly, through repetition. So the idea here is not that you master any one of these lessons, but through the course of the 52 years, you will be spending 52 weeks. I said over the course of the 52 years. Over the course of the 52 weeks, you'll be spending time chipping away and replacing elements of an existing mindset with something new. The material is developed so that it actually fits into a mindset structure or a working structure that entails, like I said, 52 weeks. We look at 5 specific domains. Awareness. We'll spend 3 months just simply working with the notion of awareness. How do I notice what I notice? Then we move into context. What's the meaning that actually is developed around things that I'm noticing in my life? And what do I do with the meaning that's being presented to me? How do I develop meaning for other people so that I can get them to buy into what it is that I want to have happen? Because nothing is developed by itself, nothing is produced by itself. I need to have people coming with me. Why is it meaningful for them to do that process? And what's the impact of that? Communication mastery. We'll work a lot with that particular domain as well. It is the lifeblood of any relationship, and relationships are what you want to pay attention to. And then we work with commitment. We'll spend a couple of months doing nothing but looking at how do I actually get my arms around, my head around, and my body into this notion of I am a commitment. And then we will close off the 52-week structure with a couple of months looking at the nature of trust. Most people don't understand at all what trust is. They don't understand, and because they don't understand what it is, they don't know how to build it, they don't know how to sustain it, and they don't know how to recapture it. And trust is the foundation of any relationship that you're going to have. Now, whether you're a leader leading a team, leading an organization, or whether you're a leader in your life, leading your family, you're in a partnership relationship with a husband and wife, leadership is happening all the time. As a community member, I'm leading in my community simply by the fact that I'm causing movement. I can't not cause movement. Is it effective? This mastermind program is designed to enhance your effectiveness. So these 52 weekly lessons, these 52 weekly meetings that we hold together with me, what you'll be doing is taking that material and you'll be working with another small subset of the larger group. And that's an important piece of the mastermind program itself. This structure is designed to allow you, and I'm going to just pull up this right here. What we're looking at is structured mastermind group interactions. We'll be breaking the large group into smaller subunits. And those smaller subunits become your mastermind group, your mastermind working group. And you'll be meeting once a week, shortly after the weekly lessons that I facilitate. And the intent behind the mastermind, as Napoleon Hill described it, is that minds coming together are more intelligent than a single mind in and of itself. So you use your mastermind group to bounce ideas off of, to bounce your thinking off of, to work on issues or problems that you're trying to solve. That mastermind group becomes your best friend. And you'll be meeting, like I said, once a week, following shortly after the weekly session that I facilitate. And that mastermind meeting takes usually no more than a half an hour at the most, depending on how many people are actually in attendance in the mastermind group that particular week. I've designed a custom VR, virtual reality environment for this, as well as you could do it on a regular Zoom call. The VR room is set up so that you can actually access it either on your desktop, your tablet, your phone, or if you actually do have a VR headset, you can come in full 3D. So these are some of the components of it. This isn't what you get. I mean, this is what you get to do. What you get to take away is something far more than that. And what you get to take away is a brand new experience of mindset that moves you closer to where it is that you say that you want to be. Actually moves you in the way that the frequency begins to shift. How you're approaching living and life moving to me and through me, life as me. And I look around and I notice that I have possibilities here that I had only dreamed of. So, what do we do with this, and how does this structure actually look, and how does it actually work? Well, let's take a look at this. Full price on this is $5,400, $5,400. And the way that it's structured when you go to the website, the landing page, you'll see, and this is a snapshot of what you'll see there, there's a monthly payment option of $450 a month, and that actually equates to $5,400 for the full year. If you wanted to pay in full, there's a 20% discount, and that's $4,320. For this group, because you've been participating in this webinar, I'm doing something a little different. That $5,400 price is not in play here. What we're going to be doing for the Possibility to Profit Mindset group, if you act now, is a simple price of $3,995. That's a significant saving off of that $5,400 price tag. And you're looking at this as an investment. What am I investing in? What am I investing my resources? What am I investing my time? The biggest investment that you're going to be making in this is your time. And that's where you want to be actually getting a significant return on that investment. Go to learnblainbartlett.com/LMM and use the code P2P. Profit, possibility to profit, P2P. And when you go to the website, what you'll find on that website, on the landing page, is an interview questionnaire. If you want to talk about this, fill that interview questionnaire out. And somebody on the team will get back to you, usually within about 24 hours. If you want more information about what we will do, if you want to actually kind of check out what you can expect to pull out of this as a consequence of your participating fully in it, that is a conversation we can definitely have. I can promise you that what I'll bring to the table is everything that I know how to do. I'll be bringing lessons that I've been working with for over 40 years. This book over here is the manual, the Leadership Mindset Weekly. And what we'll be doing is we'll be working with lessons out of that every week. We'll be looking at how it applies to your life. And the idea here, again, is through repetition, we design a life that designs us in return. So this is about intentionality, it's about focus, it's about mindfulness, and it's about you having that possibility move into reality so that you can actually profit from it. So with that being said, I am going to pull this back out again, and I'm going to close this off very simply by bringing this slide up. Possibility to profit requires risk. And my invitation to you is to launch yourself into the future. And Yes, that is me. I had a ball doing this. You can be a rocket man in your life. You can actually soar to incredible heights when you start shifting your vibration. When you start looking at how I'm structuring my mindset to have the identity that I am so that I can have the results that I say that I want. So this is Blaine Bartlett. I have absolutely loved working with this and presenting it to you over the course of the last 5 days. I thank you for participating. I thank you for paying attention. And I look forward very much to working with you in the Possibility to Profit Mindset Mastermind, the Leadership Mindset Mastermind. Come on in. The water's fine.